All right, we're gonna go in alphabetical order.
Yeah, I think we just take it from the top, right? So we'll start with Akiba.
Yes. By the way, you should lead these discussions because normally you're like, what do you think? And for a lot of these, I'm gonna defer to the professional here, the guy who probably
Okay,
like.
so I don't actually know a whole lot about Akiba Rubinstein. Very strong grandmaster. I think he was probably at his peak, maybe top 5, definitely top 10 in the world. He is the inspiration for Grandmaster Boris Gelfand, the current Grandmaster who represents Israel. So I know that's his model, or the person he sort of tried to tailor his game after from the get-go. Again, great endgame player, pretty decent theoretician. For me, I feel like great plus unlucky implies that they had world championship caliber potential. And he was a very strong player. I don't think he was ever world championship quality, so I think he's probably, I would put him in a theorist.
Yeah, it's crazy that like even being at the bottom of this list is still really good.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like this isn't where theorists mean. This isn't like garbage. Like, it's different. Theorist actually is really, really, really good. Because this, I think on this list there is no really like negative spot. But like as far as he goes, I mean, well, let me take a look on my other monitor. Let me take a look at the. Let me just see if there's an actual ranking of where he. There was a peak ranking that was done.
Oh wait, Hikaru.
Yeah.
Rubinstein was supposed to play against Lasker for the World Championship, and
I thought
it
that
got
was Pillsbury.
No, it was Rubinstein also.
Oh, he got screwed over as well? Oh my gosh. I actually didn't realize that.
That probably bumps him up to great plus unlucky, right? I feel like.
Oh, okay. So he got scammed just like Pillsbury. Okay. All right. So yeah, then great plus unlucky. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I actually didn't realize that that he was supposed to play.
I have a question. Great plus unlucky should be higher than great plus lucky, no? Because
correct. Yeah. Well, I guess like let me pop up this other window I'll change my scene just for 1 second. You guys won't see us, but just so you guys have some idea. I'm gonna actually base it off of this as well. So just 1 second. Let me change the scene to this one. Let me do that. So this is like the player metrics profile. This is actually this is better, right? 1 second, sorry. Oh, it doesn't actually show correctly. What? It doesn't show correctly. Anyway, they say, actually no, that I was wrong, by the way. It said best world rank was #1. 25 different months between May 1908 and April 1914. So actually, I was unaware that he was that high. I knew he was top 5. I didn't realize that he was considered the world rank. He was considered #1 in the world between May 1908 and April 1914. So, all right, let's get back to this one. So yeah, okay, all right.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think actually then, yeah, definitely great plus unlucky. I knew that he was top 5. I didn't realize that he was actually comparable. Let me move this off. Comparable to Lasker in terms of world champion. So yeah, then definitely unlucky, 100%. Also, I think 1908, 1914. That's around the time that the great Archduke, of course, the Archduke of the Hungarian, the Hungo-Austrian, was it? The Hungarian-Austrian Empire was assassinated, which led, of course, to World War I.
I'm very curiously staring at this next guy. Who's this next guy?
Austro-Hungarian, yeah. Next guy is Alex. You don't recognize Alex? Come on,
no. As a matter of fact, I don't. That's not Botaz, I'll tell you that. That's.
I'm sorry, Levy. I had to get up and walk away. That was I don't know if we're gonna get through this tier list because you're a few of the things you said. I mean, I feel like saying no and leaving.
Oh, why? No, I don't recognize his face more than anything. I don't know. Like I don't know him by the. Oh, it's Alyoshin. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, I don't know his face, but I definitely know the player. Do you feel a different way because we ranked his opening in garbage tier?
I didn't even know what to say. Like, I thought you were a chess player, man.
No, chess fan more than anything.
Okay, Levy.
I don't tend to play. Just
congrats on literally insulting like 99% of chess players who have never gotten to International Master. Good job, Levy. Good job. I'm just a chess fan. I don't really play chess. Like, oh my god, Levy. Okay, all right. So Ali Atkin, yeah. So I mean, I think he ranks very highly for me because he was the predecessor to Mikhail Botvinnik in terms of like the whole Russian school. And I felt he was very good with opening preparation. And oh, by the way, very quickly, since Chad is asking me, Kasparov's on the far right. There is one row that's cut off, which is Kasparov and Topolov. So they are here. They just aren't showing at the moment, but they are on the list. And so yeah, so Ali Atkin was the predecessor. Great opening preparation. I would say he was Garry Kasparov, but 70 years earlier in a sense. And a lot of what he did with like the Ali Atkin's gun, a lot of his technical understanding and the way he approached the game was really, really strong. So very, very good player. And obviously he beat Capablanca, which I think nobody thought was possible to when he became the world champion. So I think for me he's probably a legend. I think he's a legend. And of course, unfortunately, chat, he also ended up dying. He choked on like a chicken bone and he died. So even though he became world champion, well, that's the story. Unfortunately,
I know.
is that like he choked on a chicken bone. So yeah, that's unfortunate.
Isn't there a theory that he was murdered?
Oh, that might be part of the theory too, that he was murdered by the KGB or something. I don't know. Yeah. We don't need to get into theories, but yeah, I think you're right. I think he died under suspicious circumstances at any rate. And obviously, I think he left Russia. He ended up going to France because back in the old days, when you grew up in Russia, the educated, the elites, they didn't speak Russian at home. They actually spoke French. So they spoke both Russian and French. Of course, Levy, we know you come from royalty, so you speak perfect French too, right?
Oui, yes. My French is top notch. Yeah. My question has been, what is the difference between legend and undisputed number one?
Well, I would say Ali Atkin, he wasn't number one for that long, was he really?
I thought he was world champion for at least 10 years.
Was he? I thought it was a little bit less than that. Maybe it was. Let me see. I'll just check. Let me see. How do I check?
Oh, did he was he it for like 7 and then lost it and then regained it against Max Yu?
Oh, is that he lost to Max Oyva? Yes, this is true. Okay, Oyva. So
that is the right way to pronounce it.
Wow, this is kind of amazing actually. Like when you go to chess metrics, it ranks it so much differently than you would expect. Because those of you who are wondering, I'll copy this link into chat so people can see it. But this is like a link, for example. Like, it's kind of amazing that on chess metrics, they say his best world rank was number 1 for basically 20 years. But he was not the world champion for 20 years. So it's kind of interesting to look at it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is he? No, you know what? I'm gonna push him up to undisputed number 1. I'm gonna push him up to an undisputed number 1. He's not a god of chess, but definitely undisputed number 1.
Okay.
So yeah, so next up is the one and only. I mean, the picture doesn't do him justice. I mean,
I know.
This picture really does not do him justice, but we have, of course, Vishy Anand, a modern day legend, been around for a very, very long time. I say legend just in the general sense. This doesn't mean I'm putting him in legend, but a modern day legend, been around forever. I think he's the only player currently, maybe period, in the top levels of chess where he can actually tell you stories about playing against people like Boris Spassky, or David Bronstein, or a lot of these older guys from a different long lost period in time. So what do you think, Levy?
Well, you had the fact that he was also the world champion.
He was the five-time world chess champion.
Yeah,
big shout out to Booker T. Probably not watching, but big shout out to him nonetheless. So yeah.
I mean, he's probably like a very top tier undisputed number 1. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like
So I'm gonna actually I'm gonna actually say something as well, and don't apply this to me, because when you do your ranking on me, it shouldn't necessarily apply. But what I would say is what Anand has done for chess, not solely over the board, but sort of off the board as well, in terms of making chess a way and a part of the Indian culture, is something that I think very, very few people can say. Because when I look at India and I look at chess players, prior to Anand, there was one player, his name was Dibyandu Barua. I think he was the first Indian grandmaster. I think he made it like maybe a couple months before Anand, or maybe it was the other way around, I'm not sure. But when you look at Anand, chess was not a part of the culture. And now when I look at Anand, the number of chess players who can say directly that they have sponsors, that they can compete professionally, is because of him. I mean, it's like probably 50 at least. To give you some examples, you look at people like Vidit Gujarati, or you look at people like Adiban Baskaran. These are guys who, technically speaking, they have a job with a state oil company, but they essentially are being sponsored to compete as professional chess players, while having, you know, these jobs with these companies. And that is a thing that you can directly attribute to Anand in a way that you cannot attribute to anyone else. Maybe Anand, was Anand the first Indian grandmaster? I thought it was Barua, but maybe Anand got it. I know they were very, very close for being the first Indian GMs, but yeah, I think for sure you can't say that is true anywhere else in the entire world. There is no other country where you have more than maybe a handful of players who have private sponsors, or even sponsors from state companies. So I think, I mean, because of that alone, I think Anand certainly, he should be god of chess. So I think he's god of chess. I think because of what he's done off the board, combined with everything he's done on the board, I think I have to put him in as a god of chess. I think the impact he's had on the country of India, with its population of more than I don't know how many billions it is now, it's just, he belongs in that tier.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I would also say, to give you guys a fun thing, I know maybe I shouldn't say this, but I can honestly say this. I know that Gary is certainly jealous of the fact that Anand has so much support from the country of India. No, so, and by the way, I said Gary, not Geary, but Gary.
Gary. Yeah.
So
Gary Kimovich.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. So next up, this is the first player where we're actually going to take a look at a game. This is Adolf Anderson. Now I don't remember where he was from exactly. I think he was Austrian, if I'm not mistaken, or German.
Yeah, let me invite you. Are you on your Hikaru or GMHikaru account?
I'm Hikaru.
Okay. All right. You see the board?
I should see the board. Yes. You want to? Yes. There we go. All right. So this is the first player, since a lot of people may not be familiar with him. He was, I believe, he was a very strong player in what, like the 1820s, 1830s.
I thought like late, like mid.
It's later. It's 1840s, 1850s. Yeah. So Adolf Anderson is a player who is known for two games that are very, very prominent. He's known for the Immortal game, which he played in 1851 against Lionel Adalbert Bagration Felix Kieseritzky. And there was also the other one, which was in 1852, which was the Evergreen game that Anderson played against. Was it? It was Dufresne, right? Or Dufresne, or however you pronounce it. But both games are very, very prominent games. They've withstood the test of time. They're some of the original games that I refer to when I talk about the Romantic period of chess in regards to people like Forsen. These are the games that I'm referring to. These are the games that establish the whole notion of playing Romantic chess. So, okay. Let's go through this game.
Yeah, this is quite a name, by the way.
Well, back in the old days, I mean, they made a point to, you know, show off all their names in Europe. I mean, they still do to some degree, but yeah.
It would be terrible registering any sort of vehicle or filling out a standardized test form.
Yeah.
Run out of names.
Right. Okay, so... Oh, sorry. I got to get used to my keyboard, by the way. It's a little bit odd using it because it's so
King's
small.
Gambit.
Yeah, so it's the King's Gambit, of course. As I said before, you guys, in the olden days, the Romantic period of chess, a lot of players played these gambits. Whether it was the King's Gambit, whether it was the Juko piano, whether it was the Danish Gambit, all sorts of All sorts of good openings. I see someone in my chat said twitch.tv/Lionel Adabert Bagration Felix Kizaritsky. Right, exactly, you guys. Totally. Yeah, so I think wasn't the Evergreen also the King's Gambit? It was, right? So EF4, Bishop, you there, Levy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Bishop C4, Queen H4, King F1. This, by the way, used to be the original setup. You'd bring the bishop out first, and then you would sacrifice the king position so that you could bring the knight out right away.
B5 is such a funny move.
Right, so I mean, I think this is one thing now, you guys. I'll just give an honest opinion. And this is one of the things that I think has made chess change from the game that it used to be, and why it is perceived differently now than it used to be. So as you guys know, in like the 1600s, the 1700s, and even probably mid-1800s up until the 1900s, chess was considered a noble game. It was considered a game that geniuses play. It's a game that really smart people play. They devise strategies and they come up with some great ideas. And so when we look at this game, the quality of the play is not great, okay? But the players at this point, the game is still so fresh. There are so many original ideas that were not known, that they had to figure it out over the board. And so because of this, chess had this special level of prestige. Like if you played chess, you could teach nobles, you could like kings would idolize you and think you're like a great genius. Of course this doesn't apply now, but because of the way the whole approach you had at chess, it was just a much different game. And that's why I think there's this perception that even now that in order to play chess you have to be extremely smart, but it's changed a lot over the years.
Yep, they used to sacrifice pieces like crazy just to get development. So yeah, all right, let's go. Let's go through the game.
Yeah, bishop b5, knight f6, knight f3, queen h6, all pretty standard. D3, knight h5, again going for the cheese with knight g3. Let's say white plays a random move like pawn to a3, knight g3, pawn takes knight, queen takes h1, hits the king and the queen, and black will be winning. Kizaretsky saw this and he played knight h4. Now I suspect knight h4 is not the best. I wonder, is it the best move? I'm going to check very quickly. Can I? Oh, how do I add analysis? Whatever, I don't need to. Anyway, I don't know if knight h4 is the best move. I suspect, or no, maybe it is, because king g1 actually loses to queen b6. That's actually kind of funny. Maybe knight h4 is the best move. Queen g5, knight f5, c6, and now he plays g4 here. Fantastic move, by the way. Black cannot play en peasant, or en passant, as they would have said back in those days, with f takes g3, because then you would lose the queen on g5. He goes knight f6, rook to g1, another fantastic move here by Anderson. Now, this is one of the things that has changed a lot over time with the game of chess, is that you see, like, nowadays players understand material balances and giving up material in a different way than they used to. So back in the old days, everyone was super aggro. It's just like you play for development, you play for attack, you don't care what you give up, you play for attack, always about attack. So pawn takes bishop, h4, queen g6, h5, queen g5, queen f3. Again, straightforward attack, 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 development. Now of course by modern day standards we know that this is very bad, but it's still interesting to see it when you go back in time. You see how the players approach the game in the olden times. So knight g8. Go ahead, Levy.
Yeah, this guy's pieces are terribly positioned.
Right, and another thing I would say also is back then, this notion of quick development for giving up pieces, it was something that people did almost universally. And what we've come to understand now is that piece development does matter for both sides. So like, for example, in this game you think, okay, well, back in the 1800s they thought math was important, so the guy thought, okay, I'm up by, like, I have an extra knight or an extra bishop, so I must be winning. But again, at the end of the day, the noble king is the only thing that matters, and if your king gets checkmated, that's the end of the game. So it's interesting to note how the game has evolved, because these miniatures that we saw back then would never happen nowadays. It just wouldn't happen because our general understanding is too strong. So let's keep going. Bishop c5, knight d5.
This is just, is it, or it's probably already lost, right?
Well,
like
I mean, here's a question, Levy. If you had this position as white, do you think you would adopt me or not?
Adopt you?
If we played 10 games from this position, you'd white. Do you think you would win all 10? Yes, I would. Okay,
let's do it.
Okay. Okay, no, I'm kind of curious because I kind of was wondering. I mean, I think you probably would actually. But the point behind me saying that is not so much that we're going to test it out. We could test it out, obviously. That's an interesting thought. Not gonna do it right now, but I do like the idea. I think we should do it, just not right now.
Just play from romantic old games where we try to 10-0 each other from a position. You know what's funny? Like when I first put this on the engine, it's saying it's barely +1.
Really? Wow. Okay.
But yeah, well, I mean, probably a deeper engine will just refute it.
Well, but now you're making me wonder if you actually would adopt me from this position.
I was suggesting like G5 from black and all this crazy stuff, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, we won't do it right now. Test it versus Stockfish. Now, that's an interesting concept, too.
Yeah.
That I feel a little bit less sure about. But anyway, the point is, you guys, that like even if Levy or I get these positions, like we now understand it's completely winning. Like we get it. But back then, 175 years ago or whatever it was, the game was much different. It was much newer, much fresher. Players were much more creative. Okay, so knight c3, bishop c5, knight to d5. Very good move by Anderson, going for the queen, but also going for the fork of the king and the rook. Bishop to d6. Another great move, by the way, just like pure class. Bishop d6. Maybe one of the greatest moves that I think you will ever see here.
And the point being that obviously you can take the rook. You can actually take both rooks. So something like this.
This is the game, by the way.
Yeah.
Or well, no, he took the other rook first, but yeah, same.
Yeah. I was just like, it's a crazy idea, but look at do you see the written comment?
Yeah, so it says, it is from this move that Black's defeat stems. Wilhelm Steinitz suggested in 1879 that a better move would be 18, queen takes a1. Likely moves to follow are 19, king to e2, queen to b2, king to d2, bishop takes g1. So I don't have the engine open, Levy, but you can tell me, is Wilhelm Steinitz correct or is he incorrect?
He is correct. Wait, his move order is queen a1 and
king e2, queen to b2.
Well, no, he's actually incorrect because because the engine is trying to tell me rook c1 is possible. And if queen c1, you knight g7 and then, yeah. So it's also saying king d. I mean, it's computer is ridiculous when you infuse. You know what I find funny? The written comment says suggested in 1879. This game was played in 1851.
That's true, yes. So it took them 28 years to analyze the game.
That is so funny. Like, oh man, what were they doing? 28 years is a long time.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
And still wrong.
And
took
still
28
wrong,
years and still wrong. Yeah.
Right.
Computer's just like,
yeah.
Go.
Yeah. They couldn't understand his handwriting. Right, that's also a good one, too. But anyway, yeah, so that would have maybe been a better try. Probably it's still bad. But anyway, Kizaritsky played bishop takes rook. Anderson played e5, another fantastic move. Queen takes rook, king here. And now when you look at the position, Black has what? Black has 2 extra rooks and an extra bishop. Black is essentially plus 13, as XQC would say. And Black is ahead by 13 points, 2 rooks and an extra bishop. But the monarch is getting checkmated, so it doesn't matter that you have a mathematical advantage because your king is getting checkmated and you're going to lose the game.
Yep.
So here, Kizaritsky plays knight a6, an attempt to stop one checkmate. The reason he played is because, let's just say you push a pawn. After knight takes pawn, king d8, bishop c7 would be checkmate. The knight covers e8, and then the other knight guards both the bishop and covers the e7 square. So here he plays knight a6 to stop the idea of this checkmate with the bishop after white captures, but there's the brilliant move knight takes pawn, king to d8, and now queen to f6 check, sacrificing the queen, and after knight takes bishop to e7, which is a beautiful, beautiful checkmate here. You only have 2 knights and a bishop on the board. Black has 2 extra rooks, an extra bishop, and an extra queen. Black is up by the equivalent of 22 points, but the 2 knights and the bishop lead to a forced checkmate. One of the most beautiful games that you will ever see, if you do play chess.
Yeah, and even if you don't, you just it's just iconic, you know. You can you can overcome all odds. Although Black did play the game without moving 3 pieces.
True.
And yeah, ultimately it does result in a mate. As far as the ranking in terms of Amongst the greats, I feel as though this guy was like obviously like a generational talent, but he was never able to overcome Paul Morphy. He might have beaten Paul Morphy like in a game or two, but I don't think he was ever able to overcome him in a match. And the same can be said for Steinitz, right? I think the same.
Well, is Steinitz on this list? He is, okay, but we'll get to him later. Yeah, so I mean, where would you put him?
Probably in great plus unlucky. I mean, if you're like a number 3 guy and you just have number 1 and 2, you beat everybody besides them.
Right.
That kind of sucks, but you were the 3rd best player in the world.
Yeah, so. I kind of agree. I think he was great, but probably unlucky in the time period that he was in as well. I mean, I kind of agree with that. So I think, yeah, probably great plus unlucky. Why does it say Grady plus unlucky, by the way? Let me.
Oh, yeah.
I just changed that. Yeah.
Look it.
Why did it say Grady? Yeah. Grady. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting the giggles again. Apologies. Grady. Tom Grady. Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Guy.
So yeah, I would say great plus unlucky. Next up, we have Daweed. I assume you know who that is.
Yep, this one I do know.
Good. So very famous player. The next player we have up is David Bronstein. Really a very, very, again, iconic player. He was, I think, he played the World Championship match against Mikhail Botvinnik. David, of course, is the other way to pronounce it. He played a match against, I believe it was against Botvinnik, right? Was it against Botvinnik for the World Championship?
That I'm not 100% on.
I'll
Maybe?
just pull it up.
Yeah.
I think it was against Botvinnik that he played. Yeah. So yeah, he played the World Championship match in 1951 against Botvinnik. I would say that match ended in a tie. By the way, it was 12-12 in that match. And I believe that Botvinnik won the final game. There are a lot of question marks surrounding that match and whether Bronstein was forced to throw the last game of that match. You know, I know there were accusations of the KGB, and there were threats that they would basically, like, I mean, do terrible things to him and his family if he did not lose the final game of the match and lose it. So there still are questions, I think, even to this day, whether that's true or not true. But a great player. He also is behind one of the greatest chess books of all time, the book on the 1953 Zurich Candidates Tournament. Also a great theoretician as well. One of my favorite variations, I'm going to switch back to the chess briefly just for people who are watching on the big board, is the original concepts behind this idea in the King's Indian and the bayonet attack, this g6, e4, d6, knight f3, castles, bishop e2, e5, castles, knight c6, d5, knight e7, b4, knight e8. This variation, one of the original guys who came up with, I believe, was Bronstein, if I'm not mistaken. Who thought this was a playable line, and this line, of course, will always I will always think very fondly of, because this variation has led probably to the game that I consider the greatest game that I've ever played, which was against Boris Gelfand in the World Team Championship in 2010. So I will say that I have very, very fond memories of this 97, 98 line, because probably the best game I've ever played, likely the best game I ever will play, was in this variation. So
you don't like any of the games from the adoption match?
No, I said greatest games that I've ever played.
I know. Some of those games from our match were like, they were gorgeous. Okay. I mean, you beat me in 12 seconds once. That was
true. Yeah.
That game is widely regarded as your best game, right? Like anytime it's featured,
the game against Gelfand is probably considered to be my best game. Yes, okay. I would agree with that. So I mean, he was a great chess player. I think he also was involved a little bit with the early chess computers as well. The advent of that in like the 70s, and maybe when did he die? Did he die in the 80s?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I'm wrong. He died in 2006. I'm wrong. He died much later than I thought he did. Yeah, no. I knew he lived into like the 90s until the 1990s at least. So yeah, he was around for quite a long time. Yeah, because I actually, speaking of streamers, I think another streamer by the guy by the name of Mark Esserman actually met Bronstein at some tournament many years back. So yeah, Bronstein was around for quite a while. Okay, so no, my game was 2010, you guys, the game that I played. Anyway, where would you rank him, Levy?
First, I was gonna add something. Did you know that David Bronstein? So first of all, he also has the Caro-Kann variation, the G takes F6 Caro-Kann variation. I can show that. I like that variation a lot. So it's in the classical after D4 D5, and then this line where instead of this, you take with the G pawn. Open G file, pretty interesting idea. And the second thing that I was gonna say is he introduced the concept of speeding up professional chess. So he actually was the first person to talk about an increment. That's why it's called the Bronstein.
Right, that's true. The increment, yes, where you gain time on every move. This is also worth noting as well. Yeah, agreed. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So, the ranks, he's probably a legend. You know, it's like 100%. Really weird because he never became a world champion, but his impact on the game is lasting forever. So
yeah, I mean, I think certainly it's considered to be. I think he's one of the two players. He's one of the two players I think who is probably goes up there in the ranking for greatest player to never become world champion. I think probably the two players who hold that title. I think the other player is on here, right? He is. Yeah. So two greatest players I think universally who have not become world champion are considered. David Bronstein, sorry you guys, apologies, I just caught the joke there. And Paul Keres.
Yeah. Keres gets talked about a lot.
Okay, so yes, I would say those are probably the two best players. Two best players of all time who probably did not become world champion. And I would say Ivanchuk is on this list, so we'll get to him later, but just as a brief thing I would say about Chucky, he was a great player, but he's never played a world championship match, and he's never had that consistency. Bronstein played a match, and he also he played a match, and Keres I think was a little bit unlucky, but both of them were probably considered the first or second best players in the world at various times throughout their careers. Korchnoi also is up there too. Korchnoi I forgot about. He's another one who's up there as well. I forgot about him. So all right, let's keep going. Next up we have Jose Raoul Capablanca.
Yes. Man, this guy was a transcendent generational talent. Although he did it at a time when not like a huge amount of people around the world were playing the game. Who knows what it would have been like if he came around, you know, in the mid 20th century. But yeah, Raoul is how long was he world champ?
His name was Jose, but anyway, yes.
Yes, I know, but
I don't think he was world champion that long, right? Because he got the title, and then who did he beat? He beat did he beat Lasker? He beat Lasker and lost to Atkin, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I do believe so. Or did he? Was it
Lasker then? I think he beat Lasker, right? Yeah, he beat Lasker, and then he got smoked by Atkin. So yeah, I mean, I know where I would rank him. I mean, his impact on the game I think cannot be understated. Even now, everybody who has played chess, everyone who's played chess and studied the game knows who he is. Just a fantastic player. His style was very free flowing, very simple, and very easy to understand in terms of endgames. Now, whether that's because he was really great or his opponents were not good at defending and so forth remains to be seen. But I think Capablanca is one of the greatest players to ever have played the game of chess. So for me, I think he's I mean, it's very hard. Is he a god or is he undisputed number one? I guess is the big question. I mean, I have to look at the list. He's definitely above great and lucky, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I think I think actually, you know, there was some study of an old study on chess of there was some old study I think of who was the most accurate chess player. This was before I think they ranked like Kasparov and Carlsen. I think Crafty. Now this is an old chess engine, but there was a period I think that I think Crafty said that Capablanca was the most precise chess player. Let me see if I can find it just to make sure that I'm not wrong on that. But yeah, I think that there's something on Wiki, it looks like. What do they say? They say something. Losing the title, okay. Yeah, playing strength. So yeah, what they say is statistical ranking systems place Capablanca high amongst the greatest players of all time. They rank, and in some books they rank him as the 5th greatest player after Kasparov, Karpov, Fischer, and Botvinnik in terms of how well he played. They also say Capablanca had more years in the top 3 than anyone else in the world except for Lasker, Karpov, and Kasparov. So, you know, I mean, yes, obviously there's Carlsen, who's not in this part of the discussion for all this stuff, but I think the fact that you could compare Capablanca to someone like Kasparov or Karpov speaks volumes about how strong of a chess player he was. So I think he's probably a god of chess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know how many gods I'm gonna put on this list. And in general,
I mean, I know who the gods are on my tier already. I know who they are.
Okay, I'm gonna put him at the top of undisputed #1.
Okay, congrats! You just angered the entire the entire city of Miami, and you also just angered the entire country of Cuba. So make sure you don't go to either of those places.
I'm not afraid. The only Cuban in the world I am afraid of is Yoel Romero. That man, that's a scary man. And if he's gonna say he's gonna see me soon, it is what it is. But no, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. All right. So next up we have, of course, Magnus. So I'll let you take this one.
I don't think there's. You probably know like the history of the career at least, and his kind of bursting on the scene and his trajectory. I'm just gonna say that I feel like if somebody's in the conversation for being the greatest of all time, then you just put them in God of Chess, and that's the end of the conversation, right? Like,
yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, we can have a discussion over whether he's the best player of all time. I mean, that discussion I don't think will be settled for another like 5 to 10 years. But I agree that I think he has to go in that top tier, 100%.
As far as when people when I talk about, and we'll talk about, because you're in a few, and we'll talk about the impact of leaving a legacy, growing the game. When I think of like top ambassadors in the world of the game, it's obviously you, Magnus. I'm always looking for a third, and I feel like it's fitting that Anand is third. I don't know who the third is. I actually don't. Like, I leave this up to people. Like, who is it Kasparov? Is it?
I mean, I think Anand's. I mean, if you look at it as from a pure statistical standpoint, Anand has done more than anybody else by far. Based on the fact that you look at the number of junior players who are really strong coming out of India these days, they would not be playing the game if not for him. So that's why I think Anand has to be at the top. Because, like, yes, Magnus has inspired many people in Norway to play. I would like to think that I've inspired a lot of people to play, but it's really not comparable to it's not comparable in the same way. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, you see Pragnananta, you see Nihal Saran, you see these kids who are like 2600 grandmasters, really, really strong players, and I don't think you can say that Magnus has had that effect, or I've had that effect.
Well, who's next?
Next up, we have Max Oyva.
Yeah, I know very little about Max Oyva.
Okay, so Max Oyva, of course, I believe he was a mathematician by trade. He was sort of, I think, what you would call he was probably the only world champion who I think most people would say was quote unquote an amateur. I believe did not consider himself to be a professional chess player. So his legacy is of course quite vast, because besides being a math teacher, besides being the world champion, he was also the president of the FIDE, the Fédération Internationale des Échecs, for I think it was only one term. I think it was like 3 or 4 years. But he was also the president of FIDE, and he pushed the game forward. So so he did a lot of different things. Where do you think he belongs?
Like I said, I'm not that knowledgeable on Max Oyva. I knew that he was a world champion. I knew that he played against Alyoshin, but I don't know. I mean, on my list, great and lucky. Who's good? I feel like great and lucky is a little bit of an insult. So it's like, who do we put in great and lucky?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a great chess player, but I think he was lucky in terms of the time period that he played in. I don't know if he would have been world champion necessarily if he hadn't been right at that time period. So I think
I'll follow your lead on this one. Lucky,
yeah,
I don't know
for sure.
What did you say?
Yeah, you know, he totally goes in great plus lucky. Okay, so next up we have your good friend Fabiano Caruana. You grew up together with him, so I'll let you talk about him.
That's not serious, right?
Oh, I thought you guys played in Brooklyn together or something. No?
I've never spoken to Fabi in my life. Chiyu constantly messages him on stream, but like I don't.
I'm
Yeah, dude. When Chiyu and I were doing commentary, she was like, "Let me message Fabi. Good luck." Oh, he said thanks. I was like, "What? Why is this? What's he doing?" Like,
okay.
So no, I don't.
I thought you knew him. I actually did. I'm sorry.
No. People say I look like Fabi, and we both went to Susan Polgar's chess club back when it was in Forest Hills, Queens. But not at the same time, I don't think. Because by the time I was playing chess, I think he was already like 2100.
Yeah. So, yeah. Am I thinking of Robert Hess? Did you grow up with Robert?
Yeah, I grew up with Robert. Robert and I are good friends.
Right.
Hikaru, where would you rank me on the greatest chess players list?
Yeah, so sorry, never mind. Yeah, so I would rank him. I mean, Fabi obviously very very strong chess player. He's studied for many years. He's worked with many different trainers. I don't think you can put someone as a legend necessarily. I mean, it's kind of hard when I look at the comparison of him based on the fact that he's been number 2 in the world for a short period of time. But he also did, for a period, he got, I think, to the second highest ranking of all time, right? Or is it third highest? Was his peak higher than Kasparov? It wasn't, right?
No, Kasparov was 53 or 55.
Okay. But that being said, Fabiano does have what I think certainly goes down as the greatest performance of all time in modern day chess. That would be the St. Louis tournament in 2014 or 15. I don't remember which year it was. Where he started off that event 7-0, I believe it was, before drawing his last couple of games. Yeah. So yeah, I would say Fabiano. I mean, I hesitate. Like, I don't really want to put him in great plus lucky because I don't feel like luck is necessarily true in a sense. But I don't really know if he goes in legend based on the shortness of his career so far. So it's kind of hard. I want to put him in great plus lucky, but then great plus lucky implies that like he's somehow luck has played a role when luck doesn't. I mean, maybe you could even say he's great plus unlucky because if you put him in this period without Magnus, I think he would probably have become the world champion. So I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
should we put? Is he like for now? Is he somewhere in the undisputed number 1? Because he's kind of like the
Fabiano's not number 1. What?
But what I'm saying is he's like the number 1 contender to the world championship as of now.
Well, I mean, again, Levy, be careful. I feel like you might insult another country with a few billion people, and they might get really mad. Look up your address, you know, and then the hackers might come in and.
Are we talking about Ding Liren?
Yeah, of course.
But isn't he getting smoked in the candidates?
Maybe, not so clear. Anyway, all right. Let's back off the politics. Yeah, so I think Fabiano. Where do you think he goes? Like, I think he just goes in legend probably, because like. I don't really see him tailing off. He's kept his rating pretty high. So I think probably goes in legend. So I'm gonna use the assumption that he's not gonna fall off a cliff. Unlike, for example, Sergei Karyakin, who after he played the match, sort of just fell off the cliff and doesn't really. I mean, he doesn't really play that much anymore, even.
No, he doesn't. He's like involved in other things.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about Ruben Fine. I'm gonna also grab food because I haven't eaten yet.
I haven't eaten either.
Yeah, but it's 8 a.m. where you are, and it's 12 here, so...
Yeah, but I also went to bed I haven't eaten in, like, 14 hours.
That's not a good thing to do, probably.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
What do we do with Ruben Fine?
Right, so Ruben Fine, of course, very, very prominent chess player. As you know, he was, he also falls into the, this is another reason chess players were used to be considered really smart. You had to be really smart to be good at chess, is because Ruben Fine, another player who is not what I would call a professional chess player, he, of course, was a professional psychologist. He was, I believe, a professor at some point as well, so he just played chess on the side and happened to be a GM. So yeah. He had a couple of great results. He kind of reminds me of myself a little bit, if I can be honest, although I have the ranking, so it's a little bit different. But he had a really good performance. He tied for first place in the 1938 tournament in Avro. I believe that was with Jose Raoul, or was that with Atkin? Maybe that was with Atkin. Anyway, he tied for first place in Avro. Let me pull up this other tab. He won the US Open, which I guess means something. Not to be confused with the US Championship. He also had 4 gold medals, it looks like. He had 4 gold medals in the three chess Olympiads that he played in. So he had a pretty prodigious career. Like, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Levy?
That's like the one question I was hoping I didn't have to field. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know. I'm starting to look at who in this list belongs in Theorist, and I feel like if you look at the rest of the people on this list,
yeah. You know, actually, there's someone else on this who should be here in his place. He shouldn't be on this list. There should be somebody else instead of him.
Who?
There should be another American instead of Ruben Fine, actually. The player who should be on this list instead of him is Samuel Reshevsky.
Oh, yeah, Reshevsky.
Because basically the thing is, Ruben Fine was very good, but he never won a United States Chess Championship because he was always behind Samuel Reshevsky. So that is kind of a mistake with this, but that's life. So he never won a US Championship. He had one really great result in Avro. I don't know. For me, I think he goes in Theorist. Very good player, but I don't think he cuts it.
We have our first Theorist. Now, we should say, like, this is not the same thing as being KFC on the fast food list.
Right.
This is you're great. You just don't happen to be as, you know.
Yeah. Okay, and next up, now we of course have another player. What do you think of Bobby?
Oh man, I gotta go first on this one.
Okay, no, he just goes here. Nothing else needs to be said.
You said God of Chess?
Yes. Nothing more needs to be said. Obviously one of the greatest chess players of all time. At his peak, he was more than 100 ELO points ahead of the second-ranked player. The match Fischer against Spassky played in Reykjavik, Iceland in 1972. Probably the greatest chess match of all time. Certainly the one that had the most importance, both for the game and just like I mean politically even. It was such a big match. It can't be. You really can't understate how important it was. Of course, what happened after is a little bit unfortunate, but I think he's a god of chess. There's nothing comparable, and I think even now you look at chess. If people think of chess, the one name that people will always know in America is Bobby Fischer. His name is synonymous with chess.
And if you know about Bobby Fischer, then there's a very high chance you know about the other legend of the game, a godmentor, Antonio Radic from Croatia. Because if you type in Bobby Fischer on YouTube, it's only a godmentor videos. The entire page is all a godmentor.
Yeah.
But yes, it's in terms of his chess, it speaks for itself. He's in the conversation for the three.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would also say for some people are saying that like ranking above Magnus isn't correct or something. What I would say is that like the impact matters a lot. Like for example, I don't consider Vichy to be above Magnus overall in terms of quality of play. Magnus is definitely a better player than Anand, but I'm taking into account other factors as well, which is like what have they done for the game itself. And I don't think you can, like Bobby, a lot of the American grandmasters who I grew up competing against, their inspiration was Fischer. The US champions like Larry Christensen, Joel Benjamin, Nick DeFermian, these guys that I competed against when I was younger, Yasser as well. These guys drew their inspiration. They got their start and they were into chess because of Bobby. And in India it's the same thing. All these guys are into chess because of Anand. So that's why I'm ranking them so highly, because it's everything.
That is fair.
Yeah. Actually, you know, but Magnus does belong above Kappa. That is for sure. Okay. Magnus is not a Kappa. All right. So, okay, next up we have Harry. What are your thoughts on Harry? You know
Harry.
who that is, right?
Yeah, I think I know who it is. Wait, yeah, okay, it's Harry Pillsbury.
Yeah.
That's who I thought it was. Okay.
Yeah, Pillsbury,
Fair.
of course.
Don't know much about Mr. Harry Pillsbury. Was he was an American legend of the game, but what he won the US Championship? Is that
Dude, he won Hastings in 1895, which was, I think, considered one of the strongest tournaments of all time. I think all the top 10 players in the world competed, and he won that tournament. And I think he was very close to playing a world championship match, but he lost this game to Lasker. I don't know what the year was, but he lost the game to Lasker, and I think like it was 1901. It was a beautiful, beautiful game, and the Queen's Gambit declined. We don't need to show it, but he lost that game. And unfortunately, after that game, he lost, I think, his like motivation as well. He eventually ended up. Do we talk about what happened to him or not?
I don't even know what happened to him.
Well, this is Twitch, so we can be scandalous, right?
Sure. Let me just drop my shirt a little bit. Okay, cool. What happened to him?
Should I say it, chat, or not? Do you want me to say it? Should I say it or not? I just want to see. Yes. Okay. So anyway, what happens? Unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure on this, but basically he contracted the disease of syphilis when he played a chess tournament in Russia. Unfortunately, they couldn't treat it at the time as well, and he got neurosyphilis, and he died way too early. So yes, that's.
It's like very hard to believe considering he was a chess professional, but you know, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So yeah, he yeah. Anyway, yeah. So all right. Okay, where does he go?
It would not be the first story of a high-profile individual having such a story in Russia. I'm just saying.
Okay, Levy. Okay.
Now, I won't name names, but we all know who we're talking about. So.
Okay.
So, where does he go? I feel like I should delegate this to you. I don't know. Great and unlucky. Was he a legend? I don't think he was a legend. I mean, you look at Fabiano Bronstein. I don't think his legacy was as. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Probably great and unlucky.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, he was so close to playing for the World Championship, and they got a little bit unlucky at sort of like he lost this game. You know the game I'm talking about, right? Bishop A3 check by Lasker, the one where it's the Queen's Gambit declined. It's like you take on B2, they take, and then you go Bishop A3, King A3, Queen C3, and the king gets stuck on the edge. Queen's Gambit
probably declined. Yes, but not. I don't know.
Right. You don't have. Yeah, but if you saw it, you would definitely recognize it.
Yes. I had to study these games as a kid.
Yeah, I think he was great, but he definitely. Well, I mean, he was unlucky for sure. Okay.
Or maybe not. Maybe he was more lucky than some of these guys. I mean.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, okay. Let's keep going. All right. Okay.